Hi everyone, delonewolf here, and welcome back to EVE Talk, your weekly look at the market in EVE Online. And looking at the chat windows up there at the top, I think I need a more active one to replace recruitment with. I guess the in-game recruitment tool has basically killed that chat channel. So maybe I'll try to find one. If you have any suggestions for me, feel free to post that in the comments. But I like to have those active chat channels at the top there. It makes the game feel a bit more alive, I think. Next up, before we actually get started, I want to say a big thank you to all of you for watching my videos and for all of the support. I managed to reach another goal in EVE Online. It's something small, but I think it's pretty cool. So if we go to my corporation and then we go to the Lone Space Wolves, which is the alliance I created, and I press show info, look at that. My logo, the logo from my channel, has actually been accepted by CCP and is now the alliance logo that I'll be flying with. So obviously I'm hoping for this logo to show up on the citadels as part of them, if not at least the propaganda towers that were promised, or that are probably in the planning as a structure that they're going to build as well. But the goal of my alliance was pretty clear. I'd like my logo in the game at some point, and thanks to all of you guys, I actually managed to do that. So really cool in my book. This makes me feel a little bit proud, and I think I absolutely love it. Bring on the alliance ship skins as well with the logo, please. That would be just the coolest. But thank you very much for this, guys. It's definitely thanks to you that I managed to get my logo in the game. Next up, let's get started with the EVE Talk for today. Obviously, we're all here for the market, and as always, we'll start with plex at 2 minutes. And let me see here. This is actually a little bit of a trick because people came in quite a bit later. Plex, when I was checking them, were at 198. Now we have a few at 1,190,000,000 ISK pretty much, and then another one even lower at 1,160,000,000 ISK, which is a little bit strange. Why would you undercut these by that much? I honestly think that they'll be picked up pretty quickly, but we do see a halting of the increase in price here. So I quickly checked the community website. I didn't spot any sales there. We can see that the volumes yesterday were pretty high, so it is possible that there's maybe another website that's having a sale or something like that. If it is, feel free to post that in the comments. I don't have the information. Honestly, that's what it looks like to me. Some people have access to cheaper real-life plex and are bringing these to the market. If not, that could be very interesting. If this is an actual structural pullback for plex, it would be completely unexpected in my book. But if that's the case, it is super interesting and definitely something to keep an eye out for, because plex falling back at this point is completely unexpected. And basically you're able to easily buy plex at 1.2 billion at the moment. A lot of them though brought in pretty recently if you look at all of this. So we'll see. Yeah, you have to get to 220 for something that's more than a day old. So pretty interesting. We'll see if we can figure this out as we go along, probably by next week's EVE Talk. Let's see what the pilot training certificate is doing here. Pretty much flat, so I think, and the volumes, nothing too drastic there. So I actually think that these are hesitating at the moment because of what's happening in plex, and this does, I think, give credence to the idea that there's probably some sort of plex sale out there, because they are still at the price they were last week, 1.225 billion pretty much. So interesting situation, completely unexpected. Let's hope we can figure it out. Then we've got the pilot body resculpt doing the exact opposite, actually going up in price a little bit. You can see that at the very tail end, they're now going for 230 million, 221.5 for the buyers. So it is interesting. Let me know if you have any knowledge of what's happening in the plex market here. Next up, the minerals, that could be interesting as well. 450. Let's start with the smallest one as always. Here we've got Tritanium. Tritanium tried to break out last week, and I thought maybe it has some legs because even the supply demand numbers didn't look that bad, but that was squashed pretty quickly. We're back below 640, although we're trying to go back up again. So it is interesting. It looks to me like there is still some upward pressure in the titanium market, but it's having a hard time just keeping the price up there. So sellers are at 658, buyers are at 630, but again you can see here are the buyers 2 billion, 2 billion, 2 billion, 1 billion and another $500 million, and those are the top 5 orders that are actually increasing the floor basically of titanium. So here we get more billion plus orders all along the buy order side of things. If you look at the volumes for the sellers, 170, 500 million, 700 million, 600 million, these are respectable numbers, but you have to go quite a bit lower to find 1.1 and 1.7 billion in numbers. And so I have to again give the edge to supply. I think there is still some upwards potential for titanium, especially with these bigger orders increasing the floor at the moment. I think titanium is set to go a little bit higher. A new normal price of closer to 660 I think is actually possible. Next up here we've got pyrite, which is doing the opposite. So again, a pretty weird situation because usually the high-sec minerals move in tandem, but pyrite is actually going back down. Managed to crawl out of 11.10, tried to reach 11.4, now it's heading back towards 11.10, even dragging 20-day moving average with it. So this does look to be a bit more structural. 11.21 for the sellers, 10.89 for the buyers. So the buyers are trying to get pyrite below 11 ISK. If they succeed, and honestly this downward trend here seems to have some legs, then look out, because pyrite could actually become something that even the sellers will be forced below 11 ISK. So interesting stuff. Despite that, we have 200 million here, 240 million here. Those are the biggest orders, but they are also pretty much the most recent orders. On the buyer side, we've got one decent order of almost 700 million, but look at that, 70 days. So that's pretty old. Only one buy order less than 24 hours old at 59 million. So there's just no demand for pyrite at the moment, which is the reason why it's going down like this, which is in my book a little bit weird. It could just be like a difference in maybe the need for pyrite in the citadels, maybe the need for pyrite in just the general industry at the moment. It could also have something to do with volumes. The ability to bring pyrite along could be just easier than titanium and all the other ones. There are a huge amount of factors that come into play into the sandbox economy of EVE Online, but this is an unusual picture. Usually the high-sec minerals, they do move much more in tandem, and here pyrite is doing the exact opposite of titanium. Heading towards more of a lower point for the 6 months, whereas titanium is working on its high for 6 months. So let's take a look at Mexalon then. This one is obviously flattening out just above 60 ISK. Mexalon is again doing something different from both titanium and pyrite. So Mexalon stabilizing, the buyers just below 60 ISK at 59.53, the sellers 61.31. The volumes here 35 million, 24 million, another 40, another few of 20, another 54. So yeah, obviously 300-400 million units in the last 24 hours easy. On the buyer side, you've got a whole lot less action. You've got one order of 10 million, and that's pretty much it for the really recent ones, I think. You do have an older order of 200 million units here that's helping create a floor and a more stable Mexalon market. But honestly, if this keeps going like this, I think Mexalon just needs to chew through a few more buy orders before it heads the same direction as pyrite. So here I see no reason to be optimistic for the price of Mexalon, and so be careful on this one, I would say. Next up we get Isogen, and Isogen is doing something different from all of the other ones. Once again, it's actually reaching a 6-month low here, heading towards 100 ISK. So 98.50 for the buyers, 100.1 ISK for the sellers. We still have 40 million units being brought here, another 12, another 15 here, another 9 here, another 17. That's an older order, but yeah, we still have probably 60, 70 million units being brought in the last 24 hours. Look at the buy orders. They're here, but 4 million, 4 million, 6 million, 1 million, definitely a completely different order of magnitude. And so Isogen is under pressure. It's interesting. It's interesting that Tritanium is managing to maintain a situation where demand is actually ample. All the other high-tech minerals, though, are under pressure, or even Mexel, I'm seeing the first signs of pressure there because there are just no new buy orders. I guess everyone is basically ready with their minerals, and there is just an oversupply in general at the moment. I think it's interesting. Isogen, I'm almost considering buying at this point. Let's take a quick look at the 1 year chart here, and as you can see, below 100 ISK is close to a bottom, and we're gonna reach that here once again. I think this is potentially something that could be interesting as an investment, considering the amount of production that's coming our way with Citadels and the whole new capital ships that will basically replace all the remote repping in the capital ship warfare. So I think this could be interesting, actually. Next up, let's take a look at Noxium, the in-between one. Yeah, that's pretty unfortunate, breaking 470, data point at 450. So we've got 452 for the buyers, 472 for the sellers. We still have, yeah, actually look at that, all of these 89 days, less than 24 hours old, probably another 20 million or so coming in here. We get some buyers as well, but we are at a very low point here again. So I'm seeing pressure across all the minerals so far, except for Tritanium. Let's take a look here at Zydrine next. Well, Zydrine managed to climb out of the hole. 1100 ISK for Zydrine, yeah, 1100 for the sellers, 1076 for the buyers. That's pretty interesting. And I think we're going to see something that's never been seen before. Megasite 1100 ISK as well, and stabilizing at this price point. So 1106 for Megasite, 1073 for the buyers. That's just crazy. Megasite 1106, Zydrine 1100. They are basically the exact same price. It used to be that there was a serious markup for Megasite compared to Zydrine. That's just completely gone. And honestly, I actually think that this is basically a show of force, that there is serious oversupply from nullsec in the mineral market at the moment. It doesn't matter what you mine for anymore in nullsec. If it's Zydrine or if it's Megasite, you're basically gonna get the exact same result. It could be, of course, that people are just mining in such volumes that you get more Zydrine compared to Megasite, or something like that. But it's just a crazy situation. This is something that in all my years of playing EVE Online, I've never seen Megasite and Zydrine at the exact same price. And honestly, it's looking like a structural thing. It's looking like they're set to stay there for now, because Zydrine has somehow managed to climb back towards that price point. But Megasite just doesn't seem to have the will to change at all, because there's still decent supply. I mean, we're starting to see, but that's an older order of 10 million units right here. So some people are probably considering investing here, but it's been going on for so long that honestly at this point, I'd rather invest in Isogen that has some more volatility and is at a really low point, or possibly at Noxium, which is touching its bottom for the 4th time in 6 months, then go for Megasite, which is way flatter here at the tail end. Of course, anything could happen in the market here, and CCP could decide to step in at some point. But what I find interesting is that this all basically started with a change to nullsec ores, to the composition of nullsec ores, to try to give nullsec a bit of a boost, but all of that has pretty much been negated by the player base, because mining is just the sort of activity that costs a set amount of effort. It also has a set amount of risk, whether you do it in nullsec or in highsec. It almost doesn't make a difference, and as a result it is very difficult to differentiate actual income between all of the spaces in Evoline when it comes to mining. I think basically that's what's playing out. There was some instability initially, of course, because of the differences in supply all of a sudden for the same effort, but everything has, in my opinion, been balancing out quite nicely. So yeah, mineral market, really interesting stuff. All the nullsec minerals basically becoming one. These are stabilizing at the exact same price points, which is really weird. Pressure on the highsec minerals, and then titanium, the outlier, with a few really big buy orders, still managing some upwards momentum and actually being at a 6-month high. Let's take a look at the Tech 1 chips then, 1510. And let's see if we can spot an impact there. I actually think it's going to be very difficult to do so, because it's been very difficult to put any trends on the minerals, let alone the minerals in general, all of them. Even now, the highsec minerals are all moving out of whack a little bit, with 6-month high, 6-month low, a very stable one in Mexalon. It's just very difficult to find a correlation between minerals and the Tech 1 market at the moment, I think. So let's just check it out here. Armageddon still at 214, a little bit of pressure coming in, and a few ships coming in as well, but very timid. Just 5 new Armageddons that are trying to make some money at 215. I guess the margins just aren't worth it just yet. Next up here we've got the Caracal actually going down to 11.2. Decent numbers still coming in here, 145 as the latest orders, but it is the only recent one. So if a big alliance actually spots this, they might see this as an opportunity to stock up on some Caracals, buy a couple hundred of them, and basically cause the price to spike. I think the Caracal is actually set for that. The reason I'm saying that is because we're not seeing a big amount of new Caracals. We just see one order of a decent volume, but that means that people are hesitating to actually bring these new Caracals to the market at the moment, and so a buyout could actually happen at this point. Next up we've got the Dominix, went to 195, now it's working its way back up to 200. It's quite a volatile one, but keep in mind once again, we're talking going from 195 to 210 million. That's a difference of 15 million, which is less than 10% of even the lower parts of that price range. So this is not something that is as trade-worthy as some of the spikes we've seen in the Tech 2 market. Dominix is though pretty well supplied. New ones, well, another 15 coming in, pretty decent. I think we could see some more stability if the Dominix production keeps up. But of course, I do think that at some point you will find better ships to produce than Dominix's, even at 206 million. So next up here we've got the Drake. After being stable around 53 million for a while, actually crawling out of there, jumping up to 55 million. And the response is in there. Yeah, some people apparently spotted it. Have a front page of new Drakes coming in as well, starting at 56 million, 55 million, and then all the way basically 1,000 is king each other or something like that. So a little bit of competition on Drakes at 55 million, but the response is here as well. So that means that we won't spike up any higher than this. Next up we've got the Mauler, which was actually stabilizing and is actually working its way towards 11 million. So I think that that's actually okay. The volumes though are not that big. We've got a few decent sellers, especially one at 216 units right here. That is going to keep prices in check, but the Mauler is also, I think, susceptible at these volumes and the low number of new orders coming in since, like, what would that be? Probably 12-13 days ago. Does mean that I think it is vulnerable to a buyout by a big group. Next up we've got the Myrmidon, did a lovely little spike here from 53 million, let's say, to 58 million if you want to be really optimistic. That is still only 5 million, less than 10% from the lowest part of that correlation. So it's definitely not something that you could trade on, I don't think. And it's already back down to 53 million. So people saw the opportunity at 58 and said, okay, I actually have some Myrmidons, or I can produce some Myrmidons. And you can see here full front page of new Myrmidons, all competing, trying to sell them as close to 54 million as possible. But that does mean that there is productive potential, I think, in the Tech 1 market, because this price increase has been spotted and squashed quite effectively. Next up, we've got the Oracle. That actually looks pretty stable, I would say, in the, like 80 to 90 million mark, in average of 85. It's definitely a bit more expensive than like more than a year ago. So we did increase in price by like 10 million, which is not bad, but it is stabilizing at this point. I think supply, yeah, looking pretty decent. It's not full page after page of oracles available. That would create a very, very stable market, which used to be the case years ago. But this is actually all right for a decently stable oracle market, I think. Next up here, we've got the Raven. Again, did do a nice spike, tried to get back to 200 million, but the pressure is on here, as you can see. Not from recent orders though, so we actually have just one Raven coming in at 189 million. I guess people saw more potential in the Myrmidon than in the Raven, but we're normalizing towards 185 million on the chart. So let's see if the Raven, with a decent number of them and also a decent distribution across time, can actually have a more stable period here. Next up, we've got the Stabber, obviously stabilizing around, I would say, 11.3 million, something like that. And yeah, we still have a couple of new orders, including a pretty big one of 100 units that we got a couple days ago. This is pretty decent once again. The demand, well, it's all right, but I think it's mostly the supply that is important here. And we're stabilizing, as I've said, around 11.3. Still decently vulnerable though. I mean, just if you want to buy 100 or 200 of these, then you're out of luck. So I think this is still vulnerable for a buyout from a big alliance. All the cruisers seems to be, but okay, at least we do see some stability coming back to the market with this one as well. Tornado here stabilizing at 74, obviously finding its price range, which I think is pretty good. That's a decently well supplied market. Anything recent coming in? Yeah, still 5, 6 here, 62 of them less than a day ago. Not bad. I guess there is money to be made on the Tornadoes at these prices. Let's hope that we can indeed stabilize these. And then we get the Typhoon. Did a lovely spike from 178 to 194, but now it is actually coming back at around 182 with not that many of them. So the battleships, honestly, I'm surprised at the low volumes available on the seller side of all of these battleships. It's basically in the same situation as the Armageddon here. We're almost empty of Typhoons, but despite that, we're actually in a good price range. I guess the battleship meta is just gone at the moment. It's more about smaller stuff. It's possibly also more about Tech 2 and Tech 3 stuff as well, or capital ships, or people preparing for that. It is sort of weird, I would say, considering like the new DD Doomsday that is coming with the Citadel expansion, that battleships could indeed be extremely vulnerable to that. It is interesting, but to me, what this indicates, we see stable low price for a Typhoon, or maybe average price for a Typhoon, and with no Typhoons on the market in the last 3-4 days. That's pretty much a crazy situation, which to me indicated that people just aren't flying Typhoons at the moment. Next up, we've got the Vexor here jumping up above 12 million. That is pretty interesting, but I would say that we have decently strong supply. More than half, almost an entire front page of new ones, including 200 new Vexors coming in on the market. I think the pressure will be on very, very quickly, and that will be back in the 11.5 to 12 million price range by next week. So the Vexor, I think, has really good volumes and is the least likely to be completely bought out by a big alliance or something like that. But the meta at the moment, I don't really know what nullsec fleets fly most at the moment, and that means, in my opinion, I think looking at the market, that battleships have completely gone out of the meta at the moment. at least these low volumes, and despite that we see lower prices in some of them. I think is an indication for that. Maybe the Dominics, you know, there's still a decent Dominics market, could be the exception because it is so versatile with its huge drone bait, drone damage bonus. It's still a ship that can do a lot. So it's interesting. Let me know in the comments if indeed the battleships are just out of the nullsec meta at the moment. Next up, Take 2. Let's take a look at that. 24.25. Okay, and let's see if we can find some trade opportunities or not. Of course, a few weeks ago we had basically a big jump up in almost all of these Take 2 ships, and that was a great sell opportunity for a lot of them. And so the Basilisk here is falling back and basically stabilizing at 205 million. Again, if you manage to buy them at 180 and it's the first time you actually see this, you can actually still sell at a decent profit, but I would not really make a move either way on this. Of course, we may need a little bit of time to basically recover from the spike that we had a few weeks ago. Next up here, we get the Cerberus, also obviously recovering towards 195 million, but an actual bottom of 175 was a good trigger point. So this is not exactly the place where I would either buy or sell my Cerberus. If you need some cash, of course, 175 to 200 million is not that bad. Selling could still be alright, but if you're actually looking for like a volatile trade opportunity, this is probably not it. Next up here, we've got the Guardian. Triple spike and still up there. I actually think that we need to wait for this one to pull back again. Where are the buyers at? 133 though, so keep an eye on the buy orders. If those drop any lower and drop below 130 million, they could actually already be interesting for the Guardians, because of course we have a triple spike here to 145, just above 10%. It's probably going to be a bit easier for the Guardian to recover from this, and hopefully, yeah, we will fall back and we'll see some volatility come back here as well. The Hound, this is incredible. So for most of December, you could have easily picked up Hounds at probably close to 16 million, definitely below 17 million, and they are now selling for 28 million. So the stealth bombers have basically made a huge comeback after all of that stability. This is an incredible double spike here, 28 million, 10 million in profit, almost doubling in price. I was personally really scared to jump in on that, but looking back at this now, this is an incredible experience. This is incredible information, I think, for me to grab, because these stealth bombers are actually affordable as an investment, because you can basically decide to, okay, just spend 500 million, a few billion, 100 million if you want to. You know, you can definitely invest in these. We had a nice opportunity of several weeks to buy at the very bottom, and now you would have made 60-70%, I think, in profit pretty easy selling those now, and they're actually selling at these prices. That's pretty crazy. Next up here, we've got the Ishtar, also working on a 6-month high towards 190. So obviously, if you manage to buy them below 160, this is the time to sell. You can make a really nice profit out of these. Next up here, we've got the Manticore. Well, that's pretty interesting. The Manticore definitely hesitating, is back below 24 million. I would put the bottom, if you can buy them close to 20 million, as a good deal. Where are the buyers at? 2170, slowly heading there. So this is definitely interesting how the Manticore is actually recovering much more quickly than the Hound already. Here's the Nemesis. That one is working on a very high point as well, with the bottom below 17 million. They are now going for 23 million, but even the buyers have followed suit to 22 million. So 17 to 22 is like a 5 million increase. That is probably a 20% markup or something like that on Nemesis that you bought here. That's not bad for instant gratification, right? If you have some of those lying around, it could be a really good idea to try to sell some of these Nemesis, because this is probably going to start going down at some point, of course. Next up here, we've got the Oneros. Again, really the nice spike up. This is actually, I think, a double movement. So the Oneros was much more timid a couple of weeks ago, working its way from, let's say, 145 to 155. Not really enough to actually sell. Here, double spike up to 175. Definitely the time to sell on Eurosas if you bought on any of these trade opportunities. The question is, how quickly will we be going back down? Apparently there is like probably a major buyout of Tech 2 ships happening at the moment. There must be some alliances involved in this as well, because it's just too uniform. But on some of these, that means you had an incredible opportunity to make a lot of money. Next up here, we get the Purifier, spiked up from probably 17 million again up to 22, but is already stabilizing as well. So we're selling them for 20 million, but the buyers have already dropped to 18.4. So the Purifier could actually normalize pretty soon as well. Next up here, we get the Scimitar. Yeah, if you could have bought them at 120, and I definitely spotted this low point, because that is just basically very cheap for scimitars. You can sell them for 145 at the moment. So 25 million profit on 120 million is not bad at all. But this one could actually fall back pretty soon as well, because it's not too drastic a spike either. And then here we get the Vengeance, that's working its way up to 22 million, but is already stabilizing at this price point. So I just don't like the assault frigates for trading compared to like the stealth bombers. Compare this to the Hound, and I'm pretty sure you know where you'll actually be making your money. Compare that to the Nemesis as well. Just really crazy, a very spottable bottom below 17 million, and now you're actually selling those for 23 million easy, 22 million just instantly. You can easily sell 20-30 of those at that price. It's pretty crazy. There's a lot of money that is being made at the moment, I think, for savvy investors. The Tech 2 market showing that it is definitely alive and a good opportunity for active traders. Next up, the Tech 3 market, 31 minutes on the dot. That's pretty good. Let's just go over these. I thought a few of them were potentially at risk for a buyout as well, but I think actually the ISK is flowing in the Tech 2 market at the moment. And so here we get a decently stocked Confessor, a price going down again towards 60 million. So that's actually looking quite okay for a stabilization of the Confessor market here. Let's take a look at the Hecate. Hecate going up. I thought that one was the only one I thought could be in danger because of the available volumes, and so it did work out, but still 66 million is not completely out of whack. It's not a crazy increase in price just yet. It's right here on the chart, and it's probably going to stabilize pretty quickly if all of the other ones are still decently supplied. Then I think the Hecate gap will be plugged pretty quickly by the Tech 3 producers. Next up here we get the Jackdaw, also going down below 60 million, and well, decently supplied but not super supplied. That's actually a bit surprising. We're not seeing any Jackdaws coming in the last 24 hours. So the Jackdaw is actually the next in line to be in danger of being basically bought out, everything below 67 million, 68 million right here. It could happen, so be careful for the Jackdaw. The Hecate is probably what people will be bringing in the next week or so, of course. Next up here we get the Legion going up to 220 million, not bad. The response is there though. They are already fighting their way back around 212 million. So this spike happened, but is already on its way back down. Pretty interesting how the volatility is actually still holding in the Tech 3 market. It's not as regular as it or as violent as it used to be, I should probably say, but it's still definitely there. Here's the Loki then, stabilizing at 200 million, and well, that is obviously decently supplied here, so it's gonna take some doing to bring the Loki out of whack. Probably not by next week, but I would say that the Jackdaw is definitely potentially there. Next up here we get the Proteus coming down from 210 million and decently supplied once again. Then we get the Zwepel going down here as well, below 60 million, and that's a decent supply of Zwepels here with decent recent sell orders as well. And then we get the Tengu, who is also slightly going down towards 190 million with a decently supplied Tengu market as well. The question, I guess, here for the Tech 3 market is the industrial potential big enough to basically supply the entire tech tree market? And the answer at the moment seems to be no. They can't supply all the ships for all of the demand that exists. And this is why you see a lot of them basically stabilizing, cooling down a little bit here. At the end with decent supplies, but you see a few others like the Legion that are basically not that available on the market. I mean, this is decent, but look at the amounts here. They're not that big in volume, and so a few of them are under pressure, and that provides trade opportunities. To be honest, the tech tree market is really not doing that badly, but you have to be able to spot these opportunities, and I'm not really able to discern the exact pattern just yet. So I still need some practice. I think I still need a few weeks of just experiencing this new state of the tech tree market, where there's actually some volatility, and going for instance from 55 to 17 million, it's pretty obvious that there's trade money to be made in that. If we take a look at the Legion chart, you could have bought them for 150, sell them for 210, and here you have another opportunity going from 180 to 220 million. There's obviously money to be made there. 40 million on a buy order of 180 is a really decent markup. So this is definitely interesting. The one thing though is, if at some point the industrial potential does catch up, continue to grow enough, then this could be in danger. But at the moment, I'm just not seeing enough ships come in the last 24 hours, week after week, to say that there is actually going to be more stability. It looked like that for a while, because we used to be almost empty of half the ships here. That is improving, but I think too slowly. We're still seeing very volatile spikes in some of them. So the tech tree market, if you're willing to risk it here and there, I actually do think that there is money to be made there for traders as well, especially now that basically a lot of the Tech 2 market is inflated at the moment, is at a very high point. It could be okay to take a look at some of these Tech 3 ships like the Jackdaw here, you know, going down if you have some lying around, or if you can still pick some up maybe on some good buy orders. I think you could potentially make some money trading here as well. Really interesting situation. Is the Tech 2 and Tech 3 market basically what's in the meta at the moment? I think that's definitely a possibility. And this is part of why we're seeing the weirdness in the Tech 1 battleship market and all of the volatility in Tech 2 and Tech 3. Really interesting stuff. I'm really looking forward to how the entire market is going to move towards Citadel and react when Citadel hits. I think it's very interesting times in the EVE market at the moment. And then finally, 37 minutes for the extra material. I want to talk a little bit about the research component. So research component, it's the decryptor basically that you can give to the members of Upwell for your chance at the lottery for some BPCs from some citadels, and it was pretty volatile. It was really interesting in my opinion, and I actually was active in this market. So we can see obviously the launch craziness here, starting at 6 million and immediately dropping down to 2 million with very low volumes. Basically, I think the launch of these research components went mostly under the radar of most people. There was just the EVE Now or the EVE Updates announcement that there was going to be a competition around this. Then obviously you've got the huge volume spike and the huge price spike here that corresponds. That was the release of the dev blog, and I'm really happy to say that I spotted this in a MAR. They actually jumped up to 14 million there on sellers. So I decided, okay, I'm going to Serpentis space. I gathered 40 of them, and of course I had several hours needed to actually gather those, but I still managed to sell those 40 at 7 million a piece, so an easy 280 million in the pocket for just a few hours of exploration after my real life job. That was actually something that I enjoyed quite a lot, considering the amount of ISK I got out of the effort. I did this for a few more days. I'll talk more about this, I think, in the Sunday recap. but I definitely made a good amount of money on these research components already, and I have to be honest, they're still selling for 3.5 million here in JITA. That is better than the Amar price at the moment, and so this is still really decent. Of course, there is a lot more competition out there for these Serpentis sites, but if you know what you're doing a little bit, gathering 30-40 of them in a few hours is not a big problem. And on top of that, if you find a few other good sites, this is a huge markup for exploration in Serpentis space. And I'm actually surprised that they're managing to stay at a price like this, because this is still not bad at all for the effort that you're putting into exploring for those sites. So I think that this is pretty interesting as well. This will only last until February the 9th. So you have until then to do at least one contract to someone from Upwell, to that person from Upwell. I think the information is available right here. Yeah, Lee Brinal, to do a contract to her for a chance at winning some apparel. I think you definitely want to do that because it's super low effort, of course, just 3.5 million, and you get your ticket in that lottery. But even now, I think it is still decent to try and explore for these and try to bring those to the market. Not as good as the first day. The first day I went in on this and it was really crazy, but still definitely not bad. So these research components, keep one thing in mind, it will only last until the February 9th. So I'm really surprised to actually see people putting orders of 89 days here. That just, I mean, I understand it's a reflex, but putting those up for a week would probably mean that you have a much better opportunity to put some pressure on the market and to get them back before things completely crumble. What I'm waiting to see is, will we see a final spike on February the 9th, where a few players could be trying to gather the last bits of these research components, trying to increase the odds that they will get those blueprint copies. Personally, my move on that has been to sell for ISK. Anyways, that's it for this EVE Talk, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.